All right, it is June 9th, 2023, and I'm started bottom planking on the starboard side now. And one thing I wanted to show you, talk a little bit about doing this planking here, is this rabbet. And this was I just got done hacking this out with an oscillating tool. And it works pretty well doing it that way. Wouldn't say it's, the greatest thing in the world, but it's not bad. And you can see on these planks previously when they went in, there's a little bit of a gap in there. And that happens because this isn't always at the correct angle. Now, George had talked about, just cutting this at one angle and then leaving it that way. And then cutting the ends of the planks a little differently if you had to, which is fine. But it does sometimes leave this little gap back up in here. Now, the fact that I'm putting these on with thickened epoxy, with epoxy and then a thickened epoxy, that fills those gaps, and that's not an issue whatsoever. Were I not doing it that way, I might be a little more concerned about it. If I was just, conventionally planking it and screwing it on there, I might be a little more concerned with that. But being as I'm epoxying this on, it shouldn't be an issue. And the important thing here is this line here, which was cut previously with a circular saw at the angle that we predetermined that it should be at, or close to the angle that it should be at anyway. So that's the important line here, and you want to maintain that. Otherwise, the planks wouldn't be smooth if this line varied. They wouldn't, it would form a contour or a rough bottom to this planking. So that's the important line. This down here really doesn't matter that much. Like I said, a piece of plywood is going to go over this. It's going to come down and butt down here, and then I'll put a fillet joint in between the keel and in that bottom planking, and that'll fill that in and smooth it and make it look all pretty, and then the fiberglass cloth can lay over top of that. So, and other things, I coat. You can see maybe here the darker spot in there. That's epoxy. I paint all these with epoxy before I get the planks up there. Then all of these surfaces here, I'm completely covering in epoxy as I'm doing this, as I'm going along. All these frame ends, these underneath pieces here, all the bilge stringers, they all get covered in epoxy. And then I put thickened epoxy on these boards. I fill this in with thickened epoxy. And then I also put epoxy on the ends of these, on the tops of these, and I put a blab of, they're also coated in liquid epoxy, but then I put a bleb of epoxy in all these. It's kind of hard to see in this one because I got some bark on the edge of this. Isn't a good edge of the board, but if you go in here and feel, you can feel that there's epoxy squeezed out on all these joints. I don't know, maybe you could even see it. I don't know, but there's epoxy squeeze out in all these joints. And then again up here, same thing here. We've got epoxy up here, and you can see it squeezes out up there as well. That's all been cleaned off, but that's got good squeeze out on all those. That's the two areas that I really want to make sure of. I got good epoxy seal up here at the chine, and then down there at the rabbet. And then these here are all just bonus, but yeah, this should make for a pretty strong hull. All right, another thing I got in today, my 4-aught wire cable. This is not marine, it's not tinned cable, but it is rated cable. It's that J whatever it is. But it's good cable, and I'm going to run that two lines of it up here, and you can see it comes out here. This is probably where the bow thruster will go. Then we'll also have to send a line up there to the windlass. But I need to get this secured in there somehow, and I'm just kind of trying to debate how to do that. I'm not sure what I'll use. I can't get a conventional wire clamp, the kind that goes over and then you put a screw through, because I would never be able to get the screws in. So I might have to just put something down here. Put something down here and then run a cable tie over it. Run a big cable tie over it or something. But there's the battery box right there, the house battery box that this will be attached to. So, yeah, it's going all right. Just getting started really here on the starboard side. I'm not going to push it just too hard, trying to get too much of this done in a day because I've got other things that I'm doing now too. And so we give it a few hours a day, 3 or 4 hours a day, and get as much done in that time frame as we can, and use the rest of the day to get some other stuff around the acreage done.